Two men attack old woman jewelry store, but didn't know her dog was a trained K9. The early morning sun cast long shadows through the antique jewelry display windows of Maria's treasures, painting delicate patterns across the weathered hardwood floor. Maria Henderson, a silver-haired woman of 72, moved with practiced grace among her beloved collection, drawing a soft cloth across the glass cases that housed generations of memories in the form of precious metals and stones. Each piece in her store had a story, just as she did, and just as Rex did. Rex, her retired police K9, lay in his usual spot near the counter, his graying German shepherd face resting on massive paws. At 9 years old, he'd served the Chicago Police Department with distinction before being retired due to a minor injury. That's when Maria's son, Detective James Henderson, suggested that Rex come live with his mother. James worried about Maria running the jewelry store alone, especially after his father's passing 3 years ago. The suggestion had been a stroke of genius. Rex and Maria had bonded immediately, two souls in their golden years finding comfort in each other's company. While Rex's limp was barely noticeable now, Maria knew his training remained sharp as ever. She'd seen glimpses of it during their daily walks when his ears would prick at sudden movements, or when the occasional rowdy customer would enter the shop. "Another beautiful day, isn't it, Rex?" Maria smiled, pausing to scratch behind his ears. Rex's tail thumped against the floor in response, his deep brown eyes following her movements with unwavering devotion. The store, located in a historic district of Chicago, had been in Maria's family for 3 generations. Her grandfather had started it in 1932, during the depths of the Great Depression, trading in small pieces of jewelry from families down on their luck. He'd always been fair with his prices, earning a reputation for honesty that helped the business survive those hard times. Maria's father had taken over in the 1960s, expanding the business to include more high-end pieces while maintaining the personal touch that made their store special. Now, in 2024, Maria continued that legacy. While larger jewelry chains had come and gone, Maria's Treasures remained a neighborhood institution. She knew most of her customers by name, and they trusted her expertise in evaluating their family heirlooms or helping choose the perfect engagement ring. The morning light strengthened, and Maria began her opening routine. She checked the security system, a modern addition her son had insisted upon, and started preparing the displays for the day. Rex watched her work, occasionally lifting his head when she spoke to him about her plans for the day. "We have Mrs. Patterson coming in at 11, she told him, arranging a selection of vintage rings. "She's finally ready to restore her grandmother's wedding band. And then Mr. Chin is bringing his daughter to look at graduation presents." Rex's ears twitched at the familiar names, and Maria smiled. He seemed to know all her regular customers too. The bell above the door chimed at exactly 10 o'clock, and Maria looked up, expecting to see her part-time assistant, Sarah. Instead, 2 men entered the store. Something about them made Rex lift his head, a low rumble building in his chest. The men were in their 30s, wearing heavy jackets despite the mild spring weather. The taller one had a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes, while the shorter one wore sunglasses. They moved with an awkward hesitation that immediately put Maria on alert. "Good morning, gentlemen," she said pleasantly, though her hand instinctively moved to the panic button under the counter. "How can I help you today?" The taller man glanced around the store, his eyes lingering on the security cameras. We're looking for an engagement ring." Maria had helped countless couples choose engagement rings over the years. These men showed none of the typical excitement or nervousness of someone about to propose. The shorter man hadn't even bothered to remove his sunglasses, and he was drifting toward the more expensive display cases rather than looking at the engagement rings. Rex rose to his feet, his posture alert but calm. Most customers barely noticed him, but these men seemed startled by his presence. That's a big dog," the shorter man said, his hand moving toward his jacket pocket. "This is Rex," Maria replied, keeping her voice steady. "He's very good with customers." She emphasized the last word slightly, watching their reactions. The taller man shifted uncomfortably. "Listen, lady." Before he could finish his sentence, The shorter man pulled a gun from his pocket, and everything happened at once. "Nobody move!" he shouted, but Rex was already in motion. Years of police training kicked in instantly. Rex launched himself over the counter with remarkable agility, his powerful body moving with precision that belied his age. The shorter man barely had time to register what was happening before Rex's teeth clamped down on his wrist, causing him to drop the gun with a cry of pain. The taller man reached for something in his jacket, but Rex had already released his partner and spun around, his bark thundering through the store. The sound was terrifying, nothing like the gentle woofs Maria was used to hearing when they played in the park. This was the voice of a trained police dog, commanding and authoritative. Maria had already pressed the panic button, and she could hear the silent alarm signal being received by the security company. She knew help would arrive soon, but for now, it was just her and Rex against the would-be robbers. The taller man had pulled out his own gun, but Rex's training was flawless. Before the man could aim, Rex had launched himself forward, targeting the arm holding the weapon. The man screamed as Rex's teeth made contact, the gun clattering to the floor. The shorter man tried to make a break for the door, but Rex released his partner and cut off his escape route, his massive body blocking the exit. Both men were now bleeding from their wrists, their weapons scattered on the floor, and the fury of a trained police dog holding them at bay. "Down on the ground!" Maria commanded, her voice stronger than she felt. "Both of you, face down, hands behind your heads." To her amazement, they complied. Perhaps it was the shock of their failed robbery, or maybe it was the sight of Rex standing guard, his teeth bared and his eyes focused with laser intensity on their every movement. Either way, both men lay face down on the floor, their breaths coming in panicked gasps. Rex positioned himself between the prone men and Maria, his posture perfect, just as he'd been trained. The scene could have been from his active duty days, except for the setting and the elderly woman standing behind the jewelry counter. The next few minutes seemed to stretch forever, but Maria knew it couldn't have been more than 5 minutes before she heard the wonderful sound of police sirens. Soon, the store was filled with officers, and Maria felt a surge of pride as they commented on Rex's work. "Just like old times, Rex?" one of the older officers said, recognizing the former K-9 unit member. Rex's tail wagged slightly at the familiar voice, but he maintained his position until the officers had properly secured both suspects. As the would-be robbers were led away in handcuffs, Maria's son James arrived, his detective's badge glinting in the morning light. He rushed to his mother, checking her for any signs of injury or distress. "Mom! Are you all right?" when I heard the call come in. "I'm fine, James," Maria assured him, finally feeling her hands start to shake as the adrenaline wore off. "Thanks to Rex. He was magnificent." James knelt down to pet Rex, who finally relaxed his guard stance and leaned into the familiar touch. "Good boy, Rex. Good boy." The story of the attempted robbery spread quickly through the neighborhood. Local news stations wanted interviews, and Maria found herself reluctantly agreeing to tell the story, mainly because she wanted people to know about Rex's bravery. The security camera footage showed the entire incident in detail, and when it aired on the evening news, Rex became a local celebrity. Customers brought him treats, and children pressed their faces against the store windows, hoping to catch a glimpse of the heroic dog. But fame didn't change Rex. He remained Maria's constant companion, returning to his usual gentle demeanor as soon as the danger had passed. If anything, the incident seemed to strengthen the bond between them. Maria noticed that Rex stayed a little closer to her during the day, and his protective instincts, while always present, seemed more refined. The attempted robbery had another unexpected effect on Maria's business. People felt safer knowing Rex was there, and the store's reputation grew. Maria found herself hiring 2 more part-time employees to handle the increased customer traffic, though she insisted on maintaining the personal touch that had made the store special for 3 generations. As spring turned to summer, Maria had the security system upgraded again, though she knew her best security would always be the loving, loyal dog who had chosen to be her protector. She added a comfortable memory foam bed behind the counter for Rex, positioning it so he could still keep an eye on the store while resting his aging joints. One evening, as Maria was closing up the shop, she found herself reflecting on how life could change in an instant. The attempted robbery had been terrifying, yes, but it had also shown her the depth of Rex's dedication and the strength of their bond. "You know, Rex," she said, sitting beside him on his bed after locking up, "I used to worry about getting older, about running this store by myself after your dad passed away." She scratched his favorite spot behind his ears, and Rex leaned into her touch. "But I'm not alone, am I? I have you." Rex looked up at her with those soulful brown eyes, and Maria could swear he understood every word. He had been trained to protect and serve, and even in retirement, that drive hadn't diminished. It had simply found a new focus in Maria and the store that meant so much to her. The would-be robbers, it turned out, were part of a larger ring targeting small jewelry stores across the city. Their arrest led to a broader investigation that helped the police break up the entire operation. James made sure to tell Maria that Rex's actions had not only protected her but had helped make the whole neighborhood safer. As summer progressed, Maria started a new tradition. Every Sunday afternoon, when the store was closed, she and Rex would visit the local police station's K9 training facility. The trainers were happy to let Rex demonstrate some of his skills to the new police dogs in training, and Maria found joy in watching him work with the younger dogs. These sessions seemed to energize Rex, reminding him of his service days while allowing him to pass on his experience to the next generation. The trainers often commented on how unusual it was for a retired police dog to maintain such sharp skills, but Maria knew it was simply part of who Rex was, a protector at heart. The attempted robbery had also strengthened Maria's connections with her community. Regular customers brought Rex presents on his birthday, which Maria had designated as the day he came to live with her, and local children would wave to him through the window on their way to school. Some of them even wrote him thank you letters for keeping their neighborhood safe, which Maria proudly displayed on a bulletin board behind the counter. One particularly touching moment came when Mrs. Patterson, the customer who had been scheduled to come in on the day of the attempted robbery, finally visited to have her grandmother's wedding band restored. She brought Rex a special batch of homemade dog treats and spent nearly an hour telling Maria how the story of Rex's bravery had reminded her of her late husband, who had also been a police officer. "You know, Maria," Mrs. Patterson said, wiping away tears as she watched Rex gently accept a treat from her hand, "sometimes angels come with 4 legs instead of wings." Maria couldn't have agreed more. Rex had been more than just a guard dog or a pet. He had become her family, her protector, and her closest friend. Together, they continued the legacy of Maria's treasures, not just as a jewelry store, but as a place where memories were preserved and new stories began. As the months passed, the attempted robbery became just another story in the long history of Maria's treasures, but its impact lingered in positive ways. Maria had security cameras installed in the alley behind the store and worked with other local business owners to improve neighborhood safety. She also started a neighborhood watch program, with Rex as the unofficial mascot. The experience had taught Maria that age was just a number. At 72, she had faced down armed robbers with courage she didn't know she possessed. Rex, at 9 years old, senior years for a German Shepherd, had proved that his training and protective instincts were as sharp as ever. 1 year after the incident, Maria hosted a special event at the store. She invited local law enforcement, customers, and neighbors to celebrate what she called Rex's guardianship anniversary. The police department presented Rex with an honorary certificate of merit, and James surprised his mother with a beautiful portrait of Rex that now hung prominently behind the counter. During the celebration, Maria found herself sharing the story once again, but this time, she focused not on the fear of that day, but on the blessing it had revealed. Sometimes, she told her gathered friends and customers, life's biggest challenges show us our greatest strengths. Rex and I were brought together because my son worried about me being alone, but we've become so much more than just companions. We're partners, protectors of not just this store, but of the memories and dreams it represents. Rex sat beside her as she spoke, his posture proud but relaxed, accepting pets and praise from the guests with his usual gentle dignity. He might be retired from police work, but he had found a new purpose, one that allowed him to use his training while also being the loving, loyal companion that Maria needed. The story of Maria and Rex became something of a legend in the neighborhood, shared with new residents and visitors as an example of the community's spirit. But for Maria and Rex, life settled into a comfortable routine. Each morning, they would walk to the store together, Rex matching his pace to Maria's. During the day, he would alternate between napping in his bed behind the counter and making his rounds of the store, checking on customers and accepting the occasional treat. Maria noticed that Rex seemed especially gentle with elderly customers, as if he recognized a kinship with them. He would lay his head on their laps as they sat trying on rings or comparing necklaces, his presence calming and reassuring. With children, he was playful but careful, allowing them to pet him while their parents shopped, creating positive memories that would last a lifetime. The attempted robbery had changed them both, but not in the way one might expect. Instead of making them fearful, it had given them confidence in each other and in their ability to face whatever challenges life might bring. Maria no longer worried about being alone in the store, and Rex had found the perfect balance between his training as a police dog and his role as a companion. As Maria locked up the store each evening, she would often pause to watch Rex making his final inspection of the premises. His movements might be a bit slower than in his police days, but his dedication never wavered. In these quiet moments, Maria would think about how life had brought them together, two souls in their golden years, each with their own history, finding new purpose in each other. "Ready to go home, Rex?" she would ask, and he would come to her side, pressing against her leg in a gesture that meant both protection and affection. Together, they would walk home through their beloved neighborhood, their shadows merging in the evening light, two guardians who had found in each other exactly what they needed. The legacy of Maria's treasures had always been about more than just jewelry. It was about the stories behind each piece, the memories they represented, and the connections they created. Now, thanks to Rex, it had become something even more, a testament to the enduring power of courage, loyalty, and the unexpected ways that love can transform our lives. As Maria often told her customers, every piece of jewelry in her store had a story. But none was more precious than the living treasure that lay behind her counter, a retired police dog who had proved that some bonds are stronger than fear, and that true courage knows no age. In the end, the attempted robbery had given Maria and Rex something unexpected, a deeper appreciation for each other and for the community they served. Their story became not just about a foiled crime, but about the extraordinary relationships that can develop between humans and animals, about the dignity of aging, and about finding purpose at every stage of life. And so, Maria's treasures continued to thrive, watched over by an elderly jeweler and her faithful companion, their story a reminder that sometimes the most valuable treasures aren't found in display cases at all, but in the hearts of those who protect them.